Good morning. It is a little after 6 a.m., the day of the 25th day of NaNoWriMo. We are getting so close to being done. And I'm doing several videos today, which I will compile at the end so that it's not just me posting a bunch of different stuff, on different tea recipes that I find useful. Now, I'm actually going to start this off with coffee because I know coffee is something different than tea, allegedly, but to me it's kind of the same thing. It's just steeping a type of plant in water and then drinking it. So I don't know why it even qualifies as something different than tea. And I'm going to show you how I make my coffee because I actually make Bulletproof coffee, which, if you're not familiar, is from the Bulletproof executive. It has to do with a certain type of diet that concentrates more on healthy fats and protein, and lots and lots of vegetables, and then low carbs. Not no carbs, low carbs. So I'm not going to go into that whole diet or any of that jazz, but I'm going to show you how I make my coffee because I do make it a little bit different than how the normal Bulletproof coffee is. And then I'm going to move on to teas because I pretty much drink tea all day. So I'm going to just kind of show you the different teas as I make them today and show you how I do them. So I will check back with you shortly. If you'd like to follow me to my kitchen, I'm going to start off with coffee. Then we're going to move on to a morning tea that I make with jasmine and ginseng and a couple of other ingredients. And then we'll go on to teas that I use more for specific other purposes. All right, so here's everything that I use to make my Bulletproof coffee. Obviously we've got coffee in the coffee pot. I just brewed it. Now sometimes what I really like to do, my mom suggested this, is I go out to my garden and I pick a sprig of rosemary, and if I put that in the pot before I start brewing it, it like infuses this really tasty rosemary flavor into the coffee. I know it sounds strange and maybe a little gross, and I thought it would be at first too, but it's actually really tasty. Now, we're gonna get into other stuff that might sound gross, and my mom had to convince me to try this because, okay, here's the big story, and this is how this is kind of writing related. I'm gonna try to tie each of these things into something writing or book related rather. So I got this audiobook called like the Bulletproof Executive like forever ago when I was kind of desperate and trying to lose weight, and nothing seemed to be working. It just seemed like I could work out like 2 hours a day and eat like nothing but celery sticks and not lose any weight past the first like 5 pounds. So anyway, I got this book. I started listening to it, but it sounded super sales pitchy and kind of scammy at first. Just the way that the Audible book guy read it. So I stopped listening to it. Anyway, my mom, using my audiobook account, started listening to it and started following the stuff in it. And after she'd been doing it for a little while, I don't know how long, I want to say it was about a month maybe, she's like, so did you ever get through this book that you have on here? I was like, nah, it sounded really scammy to me. And she's like, you should listen to it. She's like, I've been following this stuff and I've lost weight like so easy and I'm never hungry. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll give it another chance. Listen to it. It suggests drinking what they call Bulletproof coffee in the morning. It's kind of like a pivotal key part of the diet, actually. And I was really grossed out by the idea of putting butter in coffee, even though if you think about it, butter is basically the same thing as milk. It's just that it's been churned. So Mom said that I should try it, even though when she first told me that it requires drinking coffee with butter in it, I thought that was gross. But it actually turns out really good. You have to use a blender for doing this, and you have to use certain types of butter. It has to be 100% grass-fed butter. Now this is Kerrygold, and the instructions actually say to do salt-free butter, like the not salted butter, but I don't have any not salted butter right now. Otherwise, what I typically do, because I still like the little bit of salt in there, it takes away some of the bitterness of using coffee. Now, I am not using Bulletproof coffee grounds in here. This is just this kind of coffee. This is just this. Because they didn't have Bulletproof coffee at the grocery store I went to, so I just got something else at the time. But when I use non-salted butter, I will usually add just like a pinch of Himalayan pink sea salt. I find that it makes it taste really good. So anyway, I'm gonna put that away now because I'm not actually gonna use that this time because I have salted butter. But I also, this is not on the recipe that they would typically give you, but I like to use this sweetener, and I just use a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of it. Where's my spoon? There it is. So I use this spoon, which is a Tivana spoon, which you will see repeatedly throughout this video. And then I also have this organic MCT oil. Now, I'm not going to go into all the logistics of what the purposes of these ingredients are. If you are interested in that at all, you can look it up yourself. But basically, this coffee serves to fill up your stomach, not make so that you're not hungry first thing in the morning. And kind of, to me, it acts as my breakfast most days. And then some days I have eggs for breakfast as well. But it basically fills up my stomach, keeps my brain going without being like I don't have any calories, but it doesn't take you out of ketosis. If you're familiar with dieting terms, it keeps you in ketosis so that you keep burning fat, even though you're not starving yourself, and you have something for your brain to run on and to fill up your stomach so you're not sitting there dying. So anyway, with this, I'm going to do a little bit of setup here because I have to portion out things, and then I'll show you how I do those portions. All right, can you see me? Okay, I'm going to show you how I mix these together. So I have my coffee already in the blender, and before it gets too cold, I want to put the other ingredients in so that it's still nice and hot and melts everything and goes from there. So first I'm going to start off with my MCT oil. Obviously you can do this in any order. I'm going to start off with this. I usually use a small tablespoon, and I just put 1, 2 of those in there. Now, MCT oil is basically just a certain version of coconut oil if you don't want to buy MCT oil because it is a little bit more expensive. I frequently just put coconut oil in there, and I put like a big chunk of it in there, and that works just as good. Well, technically the book will tell you that doesn't work just as good, but to me I think it actually tastes better. But anyway, the next thing I'm going to do is my stevia-based sweetener that I have. I'm going to use my Tivana spoon, and I use like a little, just ever so slightly less than a full spoonful. I don't know if you can see that or if you're getting glare, but a little over half of the spoon actually is about what it is. So I go ahead and put that in. And then with the butter, I hope you can see this because I'm not going to really raise it to the camera because otherwise I'm going to end up with butter on the floor. I take a big old chunk. Now it says to use, I think in the original recipe in the book it says to use a tablespoon of butter, but I find that that doesn't make my coffee creamy enough and it ends up too close to black coffee for me. So I just use a big old chunk, which is usually closer to about 2 tablespoons, and I stick that right on in there. I know that seems like really gross at first, and if you haven't tried this, you're gonna think that that sounds disgusting to put a big chunk of butter in your coffee. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and blend this up, and I'll show you how that turns out. It turns out being this beautiful creamy color with this neat frothy topping, like it's like an espresso or something. Anyway, I'm gonna show you how I do that. All right, so that's it for that. That seems like an awful lot of ingredients for coffee, but it does come out tasting really good. And I know I keep saying this, but I couldn't get over for the longest time how much that sounded gross to put butter in your coffee. And I'm like, that's just gonna make it greasy and gross, but it doesn't when you blend it. I usually blend it for about 30 seconds just to be thorough because I like it being really frothy, and it gets this nice, here, I'll try to show it to you, hold on. So as you can see, it's like really foamy and bubbly on top. And it's really frothy and creamy, and it turns out tasting really, really good. Anyway, that's the end of that. I'll show you shortly after I'm done having my coffee and I do a word sprint. I'm going to show you how I make my jasmine tea with ginseng and a couple of other ingredients that are really tasty to have in the morning. In case you don't like coffee, it still gives you a little bit of caffeine and a pick-me-up for the day. All right, I didn't realize how long that was going to take to do one instructional video on how to make something. So we're actually going to do a change of plans. I'm going to hurry this up because this video is already very long. I'm just going to actually be videoing each of these different teas and stuff separately so that it's not just like an hour-long video at the end. So there will be several different videos uploaded today. I think I have like 5 different actual tea recipes in mind that I'm going to be doing, aside from the coffee one that I just made. So I will be coming to you later today with more teas. We're just going to call this tea throughout the day. And I'll show you the different teas because I'm basically just going to film these when I would actually be making these teas throughout the day, because I pretty much drink all these teas like once a day anyway. So anyway, we're going to do that. All right, I will let you go and I'll be back maybe an hour from now with another video for you.